Good evening, everyone. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and I'd like to welcome all of you to tonight's meeting, the Brighton Town Board, September 13th, 2017. And I welcome you whether you're here in the room with us tonight or if you're watching us either streaming live on our YouTube channel or watching us on our Brighton Cable Access Channel 12. However you've joined us here tonight, we welcome you and we want to make your participation in tonight's meeting as easy as possible. So if you're here in the room with us, our agenda and a copy of all the supporting material that we'll be considering tonight is on the back table. But if you're watching somewhere else, you can go to the town's website, www.townofbrighton.org, and all of those same materials are on our website, and you can follow along the resolutions we'll be considering, the correspondence we've received, any other supporting material on each of the items that we're going to be considering tonight. So we do want to keep these meetings as open as possible, and that is part of how we do that. I'm going to start the meeting with a pledge to the flag. I'm going to ask Council Member Jason DePonzio to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Jason. A couple quick housekeeping announcements first. In case of an emergency, you will hear the town hall's emergency alarm system activated. If you hear that, please leave the room and leave the building immediately, either through the door to my right with the exit sign. If you go out that door, turn right, go down the stairs, out the rear entrance of Town Hall, and move away from the building. Or you can leave through either of the double doors at the rear of the room, both again marked with exit signs. Go through the lobby, out the door, down the stairs, and again away from the building. Very rarely, but occasionally, we may experience technical difficulties during the live broadcast of this meeting on Spectrum. If you are watching us live and you lose the video or the audio, please contact Spectrum at 756-5000. That's 756-5000 to reach them and let them know that you're not able to watch us. Okay, as we always do, we start our meetings with our open forum. The open forum is an opportunity for anyone to address the board about topic, whether or not it is on our agenda this evening. I would note, however, that if you're here for either one of our public hearings tonight, either the proposed community choice aggregation local law or the proposed temporary amendment to the noise control local law relating to construction at the Bank of America branch at 2830 Monroe Avenue, if you're here and would like your testimony to be included in the record of either one of those public hearings, I would ask that you wait until the public hearing is called. Don't worry, they're both at the front end of the agenda. And then your comments will be included in the record. Now, if you are at home, you can call in at 303-3060. Someone will take your call and relay your question or comment to me. That number again is 303-3060. And if you are deaf or if you are hearing impaired, you can call and participate in the open forum on our TDD line. Our TDD number is 784-5205. Again, 784-5205 to participate in this meeting using our TDD line. And we welcome, again, your comments, your questions. The open forum is now open. Is there anyone that would like to address the town board during the open forum tonight? Mr. Wolfley, come on up.
Evening. Ted and Jen Wolfley, formerly of 2500 Elmwood, the Flamingo House. Everybody in town knows us. Just would make a commentary as we're leaving the neighborhood of our experiences here. There's a certain climate in Brighton from the top down. Our African-American staff have been pulled over constantly while driving to and from our home. When our staff takes our son out for walks through the neighborhood, they report they would get nasty stares from some of the neighbors. Even while shopping at 12 Corners, our staff felt overly scrutinized. We also found out there's an interesting real estate trick. When we wanted to buy another house in another Brighton neighborhood, we had the police called on us by one of the residents in the neighborhood for driving down the street. Our realtor had recommended that we drive down the street at different times of day so we get a feel for the neighborhood before buying. The purpose of calling the police was to close the people out of that neighborhood. We even had our realtor make a police deposition that she had instructed us to drive the street, and the police would not want to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wolfley. I'm going to ask Police Chief Henderson to address.
Well, I don't know if there's more comments. I can address them at the end.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Wolfley, did you want to speak as well?
Well, I think it's really very interesting because we brought these issues up continuously and nobody wanted to address it. Nobody wanted to fix it. We still own the home. We're not selling the home. We're probably going to just rent it out to people that need Section 8 housing because it also seems there's no Section 8 housing here. But it's really very scary, in my opinion, that somebody like my husband and I, who have very good jobs, who had 100% cash to pay for a home on a particular street, had the police called on them for being on the street. I don't know if that's because we're a minority family. I don't know if that's because we're a mixed racial household, but all I can say is I don't like it. Nobody wanted to address it. We made mention of it several times, but that's the situation. It got to the point that every time we went to see a house in Brighton, we would call the police and ask for a police escort to go with us. And that's what happens to black people, Romanies, which are gypsies, Hispanics, Jews, and that's the closeout. That's how the town fixes it so other people cannot buy. And I see people in the audience shaking their head because everybody knows that's the trick. I called the real estate board. They said that's illegal. We called the federal HUD people. We made a complaint. They said it's illegal to use the police department and your state money, your tax dollars, your local dollars, to call the police to make it so somebody like myself who has cash can't buy a house on a particular street because you don't like me? You don't like me either because of my race or my kid or whatever? There's a real problem with that here, and we're not going to let it go. We're going to keep filing it until it goes to the Attorney General, until it goes to the governor. I don't care who knows. We're not embarrassed. I think the town should be very, very embarrassed, and that's my only comment.
I'm going to now ask Chief Henderson.
You know, from a position of dates and times, I've met with both of you a number of times in my office. This is the first time hearing that this happened at a real estate. I haven't talked to either one of you in months. I'd be happy to look into it. Every one of our officers wears a body camera. Every interaction will be taped. I'll be happy to look into it and get back to you, but I'm not aware of what you're talking about.
You aren't aware that we had a call for escorts to go to all kinds of real estate open houses? Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. I've had a number of conversations with you on the phone, none of which involved being asked or escorted to open houses.
And we've had to be escorted to go to other businesses and appointments?
First time hearing that.
First you're hearing of it. That's very, you know, I respect you as a colleague because I'm in criminal justice as well, as a peer because we're the same generation, and as a person that is paid by tax money to uphold the law, but I can't believe that nobody has imparted to you what's gone on in our life for the past 3 months where it's been so unsafe that we're currently residing in a completely different town where I bought another home. And the more that I complained and brought it to people's attention, the more we were targeted. I think it's criminal.
We've communicated on a number of issues in the past, and this is the first time I'm hearing that tonight.
Well, now you heard it.
And we should probably follow up with it.
I guess you should follow up.
So I'll be happy to meet you in my office. I'll be
That'd
happy
be
to-
great. You let us know when, but I think it's really shameful.
Ms. Wolfley, I would ask that you contact Chief Henderson's office to set up that
We
meeting.
will, thank you.
I also, just a couple things I'd like to say. First, the town of Brighton does not tolerate racially or any other motivated hate speech or hate activities directed at any group of people. Just this evening, Chief Henderson spoke at an event at the Jewish Community Center sponsored by the Jewish Federation, addressing hatred and the response of our school district and the police department to incidents of hate in the community, and we will not tolerate those. I have made that very clear on any number of occasions, both from this microphone as well as at events from throughout the community. I also, well, I'm just going to leave it at that. Is there anyone else that would like to address the town board during the open forum at this time? Hearing none, we'll proceed with the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros? Aye. Councilmember DePonte?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Can I have a motion? No, sorry, we don't have any minutes to approve. Public hearings. Again, as I mentioned, we have two public hearings tonight. First is the proposed temporary amendment to the town's noise control local law. This relates to construction activities that are proposed to be performed at the Bank of America, 2830 Monroe Avenue, specifically requests to engage in certain nighttime activities outside of the town of Brighton's hours directed for construction activity in our noise law. Tim, I don't know if you have any introductory comments. These are the hearings that we've had on a variety of occasions before. Tim? Actually, first, let me just, Dan, has the necessary legal notice in this matter been given?
Yes, Supervisor. The notice was published in the August 31st edition of the Post.
Thank you. Then I declare this public hearing to be open, and now I'll ask our Commissioner of Public Works, Tim Keefe, if he has any comments for the record.
Certainly, Supervisor. As you know, from time to time, we have gotten requests of this nature in the past. This is to help facilitate the Bank of America that is going in on Monroe Avenue to be completed in a timely fashion. Some of the work is not necessarily easily done during the normal business day, and I know that there is a desired time frame for them to get in and get the establishment open. So thereby the request from them to seek a waiver from our noise ordinance.
Thanks, Tim.
If I could just add to that,
Yes,
Supervisor.
please, Ken.
As the board knows, the noise law that we have here in the town of Brighton restricts construction activities to, during the weekdays, Monday through Friday, to end at 7 p.m. And this request is to extend that workday until midnight each of those nights. And our local law also restricts construction activities on Saturdays to end at 6 p.m. And the request is to extend that by an hour to 7 p.m. on Saturdays.
But I would also note that that is not an open-ended extension.
It is not. I assume that the applicant's here and will address that, and I'll have some questions
Great.
as well.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone then, I'll see if the applicant wants to lead off. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. I'm Coral Silsby from Project Expeditors. I'm here on behalf of Bank of America. And I also have with me Andrew Streb from LaChase Construction. I'll do an introduction to what Bank of America is proposing, and Andrew's here to answer any specific questions related to the construction. As you probably all know, Bank of America has obtained permits and approvals to do American Disability Act improvements at the existing branch at 2830 Monroe Avenue. The ADA improvements consist of interior work, lowering a teller counter, and some other interior work, and exterior work, which involves making the entrance ADA compliant, and this is a federal requirement. The other work that's proposed is ATM security lighting. New York State has an ATM security law, and the branch is currently non-compliant. The proposed lighting was approved at the planning board and is permitted, and the bank would like to get started on both projects as soon as possible. The issue with the bank working during normal business hours is that a good percentage of the work is going to occur at the entrance of the branch. That's where the ADA ramp is going in. There'll be trenching in the parking lot to put in light poles, so there'll be open trenches. And so the work is not conducive to being done during normal business hours. Just a minor correction, we are asking for Saturdays until 10 p.m. and we are asking for during the week until midnight. The construction work will basically begin when the branch closes, and on Saturdays till 10 p.m. will give us a full shift of work. It's a total of 4 Saturdays. And then during the week, a lot of the work will occur inside the branch. I'm going to let Andrew go ahead and describe generally the work that's going to occur, and then maybe we'll answer questions.
Thank you.
Hello, thanks. Thanks for hearing our story here. Andrew Streb from LaChase Construction. I live at 923 State Road in Webster, so I'm not a resident of Brighton. I'm looking in Brighton right now. So what do all the council members and Mr. Supervisor, do you guys have this schedule? It was provided about 2 months ago.
We have the text of the proposed law, and we do have the proposed schedule. That is the chart that you have attached to that proposed law.
So if I can explain that chart, that we've been sensitive and tried to be as sensitive as we can to having all work done inside of the constraints of your sound of a sound ordinance within those time frames that you guys are asking to not have us work at. However, in order to form even a partial shift on any of those days, with the bank closing at 4 and we can't get in and be working until 4:30, that necessitates till midnight in order to even get close to a full shift throughout the week. If you look at the chart that we provided, there's 3 weekends that we're asking for to go outside of that sound ordinance constraint. Reason being is that we're going to try to, in that first weekend, do all of the demo over the course of that Saturday and Sunday. And in order to do that, we won't be able to start until 1:30 after the bank clears out on the Saturday. And then Sunday, we can do a full shift in your time frame. However, it'll most likely bleed over that on that first Sunday weekend in order to get all of the demo out and hauled off site. Then we are asking for 2 other Saturdays for the pours. We've broken the pours for the concrete in the front of the building, and the peninsula extending out that comes out to the sidewalk in the front into 2 different weekends in order to make that happen. The reason for asking for that to be extended is because the shift will start again at 1:30. We'll be doing preparations 2, 3 o'clock. We'll start having trucks coming in late in the afternoon on Saturday. We will certainly go over the time. By how much? I'm not sure exactly. The 10 o'clock is giving us a comfortable buffer, and that is just to have the trucks be there to unload all the concrete and then to do the finishing, which has to happen all in one day. So that's in 2 different pours that we have that set up. And then the rest of the weeks, all our activities, the way that we broke this out on this schedule is to keep all big equipment or any trenching and any kind of loud noise work to be finished by 7 o'clock throughout the week. So that anything that we're doing after 7 is going to be hand tools, some circle saws, maybe some hammers, not generators, because as we talked at our meeting last month, we were proposing to do electric for our lighting, so we won't have power-generated lights going on for the nighttime work. And everything else that'll be happening at work is going to be hand work for the most part. You're going to have some trenching, burying of conduit lines. You'll have some form work probably happening on those evenings prior to the pours happening. But aside from that, most of the work throughout the week is not noisy work. So we're just asking for our work hours outside to be extended in those, throughout those 5 days of the weekdays, so that we can formulate a full shift and have guys actually perform the work to get it done. Anybody have questions?
Yes. But do any of my colleagues have questions? I'll go ahead. I just heard, well, you talked about bleeding over that first weekend, bleeding over past 10 o'clock at night, or bleeding?
No,
Okay, I
your-
just wanted to
your-
clarify that.
Your time window of, 9:30 to 6, or 9 to 6:30? Is it on Saturdays?
Our hours are Saturday and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
But I think, just if I could follow on that question, Supervisor, I think what you said is there would be some bleeding over the hours on Sunday as well as Saturday, if I heard you
Past
correctly.
the 6 p.m. Not
Right,
past-
that's,
not past 10
that has
p.m.
not been part of your request
That was
until
going to
this
be my
moment
next
in time.
question. Everything we had received in writing referenced noisy work would be the proposed law, noisy work as defined shall be limited to being performed no later than 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. And I know that was consistent with material we had received from the application.
Right, I think
So
it-
the Sunday that I am referencing is only the first Sunday, so that we can get all the demo complete. That's no other day in this entire 6-week schedule am I asking for any kind of extension on a Sunday, nor were we.
I think I heard that you said that. My point was simply that until you said that, the request that had been made by Ms. Menges in her letter was
It was in
only Saturdays
It
till
was
7 p.m.
in the schedule from 2 months ago, but it was not written in her letter, it looks like.
It looks like the letter said that the noise would be limited to 7 p.m., to up to 7 p.m.
I do see that
That
this
it does.
schedule indicates, well, look at the first weekend. They have put time in on Sunday. Although, I would say, although you've got the chart, the box for Sunday marked, the narrative says ADA area saw cuts extend Saturday hours to 10. It references Saturday. Same thing, removals, haul-offs, extend Saturday hours to 10. Now, that raises some other questions. So there's a little inconsistency between the narrative and the boxes that are checked. But that sort of segues into my next question, because we have defined this term of art of noisy work, and then we go on in the proposed law to state, and this is subsection 3 of section 3A1, work to be performed after 7 p.m. shall consist of only the following: hand-powered tools and hand tools for the installation of fencing, electrical installations, conduit cutting and installation for the new light poles, construction of concrete forms, stripping and installing bike racks. I don't know if that's intended to be stripping or striping.
Striping.
Striping, okay. Good. But I heard you reference circular saws. And circular saws would, obviously, are a power tool that would not be quiet work. So the law, as we have it in front of us to be considered tonight, would not allow those circular saws to be used after 7 p.m.
And if I could just explain where that came from, I'm reading now from Ms. Mangus's request, her letter, which says, quote, "The work to be performed from 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. on weekdays will be limited to hand-powered tools, saws and drills with very little noise impact. Quiet construction work and tools are detailed as follows: hand-held saws and hammers, installation of fence, electrical fixture installation, conduit cutting and installation for new light poles, construction concrete form, stripping, which we now understand is striping, and installing bike racks." So what we've done in constructing our local law to try to accommodate you is just take your specific request, which only included Mondays through Saturdays, didn't include any Sunday variants at all, and the limitation on your work to be done after 7 p.m., and we've tried to construct a law that gives you exactly what you asked for, and now it seems like you're asking for something slightly different, and that's where the concern is. Again, to add to what the supervisor has said, I think I also heard you say that on that first weekend, the Saturday work was going to be focused on demolition work right through till 10 p.m. That doesn't sound like the kind of quiet work that was just described.
Could I ask a question?
I'd like to hear the answer on this, Ken's question first.
Right, well, I provided this schedule about a month ago for our request. And in the schedule, we were pursuing that first weekend to do all the demo. So I don't really have a response to that, so that's.
I think you missed my point. My point is, we don't want to act on a local law that we think is giving you what you want when it doesn't give you what you want, and then you're out there in the field doing your work, and you're finding that you're in variance with the local law that was adopted to accommodate you, and now we have a problem with our code enforcement officers. So just clarify for us what it is that you do need, and then the board can consider that as to whether they're willing to give you what you need.
So I think what we need to clarify is from 7 p.m. on those 4 Saturdays,
3 Saturdays.
I'm sorry, 3 Saturdays, what will be exceeding the noise ordinance?
And it's really
Trucks,
any
it's
day.
real- it's, well,
I mean,
it's,
after 7 p.m., as I read this, noisy work is performed no later than 7 p.m.
That's
Monday
correct.
through Saturday. So we're really talking about any day potentially.
that's correct. So after 7 o'clock, we are not performing noisy work.
Correct.
Throughout the entire week. And on Saturday, their noisy work would stop at your noise ordinance time, and it would just be, as described there, hand tools. Part of my understanding of what your ordinance was, is that you cannot be working at all after those times. We're asking for us to be able to formulate a shift after your ordinance cuts off, so that we're still doing activities that are not noisy activities throughout the week. And then what we have for those 3 Saturdays is, as described, that we are asking for those 3 Saturdays to be extended to 10 o'clock.
And are you going to be doing anything other than the hand tool quiet work after 7 PM on any day? And if so, which days, please?
Yeah, Saturday.
I think I just heard the
those
first
three
three Saturdays.
That's it. Those first three Saturdays.
And would that noisy work consist of anything? Because I heard a slight difference between handheld and hand-powered. I mean, a
Well, I mean,
handheld.
if we're forced to use hand saws to cut conduit, then that's what we'll have to do. We had written in here saws, powered tools, saws and drills. That's what it says in here, quote unquote. Powered tools, saws and drills, with very little noise impact. And then it says quiet construction work tools are detailed handheld and saws and hammers. I understand that. My impression of that originally was that we were going to be able to use like a battery-powered circle saw to cut our piping. If we can't do that and we have to use a hacksaw, then tell us that, and we'll abide by it. We're not. I'm not asking to overstep. We really just need to be able to formulate a shift, and then if there is a problem with what we are asking for here, tell us what it is, and we'll work inside your constraints. That's what it comes down to.
Okay, that's helpful. Yes, Louise?
Does your building back up to homes?
There is a
Clover
residence, the majority of the work is being done in the front
In
of
the
the
front.
branch. Right, which faces commercial. To the side of us is a gas station, and to the other side of us is an animal hospital, and across the street, there's a pizzeria and a strip mall. If
'Cause-
you go to the rear of the parking lot, there is a fence, a street, and across that street, there is residence.
My understanding of why this law was put into effect in the first place was when you were going to have construction such as this right next to where homes are. And if there's no homes adjacent to it, if there's nobody they're really going to disturb, then I don't know why you're being so picky.
I'm sorry, who's being picky?
Picky?
No, I said who is being picky?
Why you're insisting that they have to not do what they have to do to get the construction, or to get the demolition done, to get the construction done.
If I can answer.
Nobody's insisting on that. We're trying to find out what they need so we can give them what they need.
Correct. And what I did here, and I appreciate what you're saying, is that there are different ways to do the work, and if you need to do it with hand tools, you can and you will. But there is a difference between not disturbing anybody and residences next door. The reason we're being picky is that we have a law
Yes.
that says these are the hours that you have to work. They are asking for an exemption from that law. I would say that defining the scope of that exemption is not being picky, it is being careful for our residents.
Well, we have,
Can I add here?
Sure.
So about 90 to 95% of this entire project is on the Monroe side of the property. The extent of work even facing the residence side is some wall packs that we're going to change out.
Okay.
So almost all the work is on the side which has cars driving by, honking horns, making noise that's going to exceed the sound that we're going to be producing throughout the entire time that we're there.
So I think, just to add to that, I think what you're trying to do is define exactly what you need to
That's correct.
authorize, so that he's not out there working and somebody drives by and says, wait a second.
That's
So-
exactly right.
So the
Exactly.
question is, do you need powered saws after 7 PM on weekdays? Let's talk weekdays.
The only time that we would need them would be for cutting conduit and cutting forms after that Saturday work is done. And if that is something that we need to stay under that 7 o'clock time zone for, then we will oblige that.
Okay.
That's what that comes down to.
If we could request minimal use of powered saws after 7 PM, so that they can cut conduit, which should not take very long.
I assume you mean electrical conduit, correct?
That is correct.
When you're talking about forms, circular saws are noisy. I own several and I
Sure.
use them. So after 7 o'clock, it certainly would keep my neighbors up.
Well, keeps the
So-
dogs up.
So form work for all the concrete sidewalks. So if it means that we need to either go to a different means and methods in order
But
to
it's
do
like
it, and
cutting
using
2x4s
forms,
to-
using slip forms that are metal and dropping them instead of cutting custom forms, you're still gonna have some custom work, but we can certainly do that before 7 o'clock.
Okay.
It's not a, what we're asking for is some latitude to be able to work inside a buffer time so that we don't run into that problem of bleeding something over and somebody running a saw and getting in trouble for it. If we have to be stricter about what we're going to do, then we'll oblige. But all we're asking for is for the town of Brighton to allow us to have those choices to make inside that window of time. And if it's, hey, you can't run a circle saw after 7, well, then we'll figure out how we have to do it.
Backup, noise, backup beepers, or what do we call them, horns?
Backup alarms
Backup alarms, thank you, Council.
on your trucks.
On your trucks, will they be in operation after 7 o'clock?
All work that we have laid out here for any excavation of trenches as dictated here will be done by 7 o'clock. We will drag a steel plate over top of any trenches and be done for the day at 7 o'clock.
But there won't be any backup alarms?
Should not be any backup beepers or alarms after 7.
What about on demolition day, Saturday?
Saturday, Sunday, we're asking for you guys to grant us those 2 days to get everything out of there and not impact doing that heavy work the rest of the
So,
project.
again, I'm not trying to give you trouble, I'm just trying to be clear. From what you just said, would imagine that on those Saturdays and Sundays, when you're doing demolition work and hauling,
The first
one
Saturday.
Saturday and one Sunday, when you're hauling debris out of
correct.
there, you're gonna have trucks,
Absolutely.
they may be backing up.
They're gonna be
And
beeping. They're gonna
they're gonna be
be.
beeping.
They're gonna be beeping. You'll hear concrete loading into the trucks, and we will do everything we can to keep all that stuff is done as early in the evening as possible. We do not want to be there till 10 o'clock hauling stuff off. We do not, but we need to ask for a window of time in order to accomplish the amount of demolition that needs to be done on
And it-
this property to happen outside of the bank operating and outside of businesses operating throughout the week.
So
And it
to
may
be-
be that, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, to be clear, we are requesting to exceed the noise ordinance on Saturdays up until 10 PM.
For 3
For the
Saturdays.
record.
For 3
For 3
Saturdays.
Saturdays. And on Sunday, we,
For that first Sunday.
up until,
Well, we were looking for it to be extended. If we can't do it, and then we just work inside an 8-hour window, then that's what we do.
so it's something we can stop at 7 PM, any noise on Sunday. Okay?
So you're not asking for 10 PM at
I'm
all
saying-
that first Sunday?
For that
Okay.
Sunday, no.
But you are on 3 Saturdays?
3 Saturdays, that's
Okay.
correct.
What I'm going to do, because, there may be some residents here that also have some questions, and we'll have board members have an opportunity to ask some more questions. But I do want to ask if there is anyone here in the audience that would like to address the board on this matter, whether you're a neighbor or otherwise. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address this public hearing on the temporary noise local law for the Bank America branch at 2830? Okay, well.
And
then-
it doesn't have to be questions. If you simply have comments or an opinion that you want to
Right.
share with the board, please come forward and
Absolutely.
ask that, and the applicant will have a seat, and we'll give you the opportunity to do that.
Okay,
I-
well then
I-
I guess we'll
Thank you
continue
guys
to
for hearing
engage. You can stay up, because I think it looks like there are no questions. I'm wondering, because very honestly, people don't go to sleep at 7 o'clock at night, particularly not on the weekend. But circular saws are very loud.
Depending what they're used for.
Yeah. And
Working
I'm,
with 2x4, it's noisy.
We should not
I'm
be
won-
using any circular saws on those Saturdays. That first Saturday is for demoing the concrete.
And there'll be trucks and.
There'll be trucks, and what we were proposing to do, rather than running a ram hoe, which everyone knows is very loud
Very
and
loud.
obnoxious, was to, during the afternoon, saw cut and remove sections of the sidewalk so that we can actually just lift them and drop them in, and we're not having this continuous impact
Yeah.
and loud noise going on.
And I appreciate that.
But that would extend beyond 7 o'clock on Saturdays?
The loading of the trucks and hauling the material off-site may be passing 7 o'clock, and we've asked to go to 10 o'clock because we don't know exactly the
The
bleed
cutting of the
over
concrete section?
until we've got, come again?
Cutting of the concrete?
No, that'll be happening immediately after the bank closes. So all that high-impact noise of saws and lifting stuff, dropping concrete into trucks and all that should be done it'll be done on the front end of all that.
So
Just
let-
still within your noise constraints. It's, what we're asking for is that extra time that we need to get all that stuff off the property.
See, my
And load.
sensitivity is simply that my daughter has worked extremely hard to get my grandson in bed by 7:30 now that school has begun.
Oh, yeah.
As a kindergarten.
I got two kids,
And there are
too.
neighborhoods in close proximity there with a lot of school kids. And those beeping trucks, and if you're cutting, I went by a circular saw cutting concrete out on the thruway today. It was extremely loud. So that's the sort
Yes.
of impact on our neighborhoods I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
It sounds like I'm trying to accommodate that. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
we've actually revamped our plan about 3 different times to try to get this thing to have as little impact on going past any kind of noise ordinance that you guys have. And every way that we've skinned it, the best way that we came up with was to ask for these extensions of time.
So
for
it
those
sounds
3
like,
weekends.
it sounds like there's a real qualitative difference in the work that you plan to do the first Saturday, where you're really going to be doing the demolition work.
That's correct.
And the later Saturdays.
So the following 2 Saturdays are pour days.
Yeah.
That we would be prepared to just be doing the two separate pours, one being that sidewalk section out to the curb at Monroe, and the other being the sidewalk section immediately in front of the bank entrances. So the reason that we need that to go past the time is because there's still going to be trucks unloading close to that time.
Right,
And
so you're
then
gonna
we need
have-
to still hand finish all that.
So you're going to have concrete trucks up until as late as possibly 10 PM.
No, there's not that many yards of concrete. The trucks should be done and out of there. Honestly, I don't imagine them being much past the 7 o'clock. We're gonna have activities out there where guys are still finishing concrete, but they could go past that time. And not knowing how that day is gonna play out, that's why we're asking for that window of time extended on that Saturday.
Can I just shift gears here?
Yes,
No
absolutely.
pun intended. What is your anticipated completion date?
We don't have a date because we don't have a start. We have a window of time for construction that if we do not accomplish that at this hearing, this whole project doesn't happen until 2018.
So if if the town board does provide you with the local law to give you the time parameters that you need to do this job and votes on it tonight, when would you begin and when would you end?
We would be, we have an approval process that we need to do through CBRE, who's the bank's representative. And we are GC for CBRE. Really, I'm kind of a couple tiers below who the actual end user is here. I'm just coming to try to facilitate this project to make it happen so that it happens before next year. So we actually have a 6-week look-ahead window. In this should be the calendar that's in front of you. So if we are able to start or get this approved, we should be in the field within 2 to 3 weeks, and we should be completely wrapped up 6 weeks after that. Our goal is to be, no matter how we do this, to be done and out before Thanksgiving because asphalt plants close. And that's really why, if we do not accomplish this today, we don't do this project until the springtime.
The reason for my question is because it is a temporary local law and a temporary waiver of the noise provisions. So we want to put in, and always do put in, a sunset provision, a date by which your permission to do these things goes away.
Absolutely.
And we want to set a date that is reasonable, but
Yeah.
also works for you folks.
And right
I
now-
randomly, when I drafted this local law, picked a 6-week period of time, and I said October 28th. Sounds to me like that's a little bit ambitious. Yeah. So we need to pick perhaps a different date than that.
November 15th?
I was going to even say December
Well,
1st.
as far as, we will do everything we can to accelerate the asphalt portion of the project, no matter how we're doing
Well,
any of this, because of the time constraints that we're at right now, so.
The supervisor just suggested December 1st. I would imagine that if
That
you're
is
not done by then, you're in trouble.
Yes,
I-
absolutely. We're in trouble if we're not done.
And from my perspective, whatever arrangement we reach tonight, I mean, a Saturday night, Sunday night, the time, whether it's occurring in October or in November, other than the fact that it gets dark earlier and people do adjust their lifestyles a little bit, is not a material difference, and I understand the number of weeks you have in mind. Is there any, when is the earliest you would anticipate starting this work? If we were to give you an approval tonight, the earliest you would start this work?
It's completely dependent on the reaction of CBRE, because we are, half of this project has already been approved and awarded. The other half of it came mid-year this year to us, because there was 2 separate projects originally, the lighting and then the ADA. The ADA, we are still in a negotiation portion with CBRE, and it's pending the proceedings from this meeting. So we could realistically say it'll be about a week to 2 weeks before we can actually get boots on the ground from now.
Which means that with their 6-week construction window, they're going to be pushing into November no matter what.
Oh, absolutely.
correct.
I'm trying to figure out, whether even December 1st.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
December
okay.
1st.
And
Because they have
we
a
have-
supplier issue if they go past
That's
that
correct.
date.
That is correct.
all right.
And we actually have some of the fixtures on the project have an 8-week lead time on them. So from this proceeding, we will probably be forced to do a notice to proceed to get things ordered through other subs in order to make sure that we are going to hit a early November install for those things.
So, again, I go back to the fact that it seems as though the first weekend is going to be the most intense, but you're really focusing on Saturday for the demolition work
That's correct.
as the day that you're most likely to go later.
So I've been drafting as we've been talking.
Okay, you have a,
I have some modifications
suggestion.
I have some modifications to the proposed
and
law.
I'm going to just ask one more question. Are we, the High Holy Days, do we know when those are? And
We do know when
is it
they are.
possible? Do you have it, does anybody have it on their computer?
I have it in my head.
Okay,
First day of Rosh Hashanah is the 21st.
Okay.
Or first.
And what day of the
night
week is
Night
that?
is the 21st. Or first day is the 21st. That's Thursday, and then Friday, the 20th.
yep.
And
Yom
then
Kippur.
Yom Kippur is Saturday, the 30th. Thank you. 30th, of course, 10 days later. Thank you.
I am sensitive to the impact of lots of noise on Yom Kippur. Going into the evening.
that may be the date that they
I'm-
want to start.
I realize that.
No, there's no, no temple in that immediate vicinity.
No, there isn't, but it is an important day for a large number of members of our community.
If you want to put those days into the draft of what you're doing, and we'll limit any noise till 7 o'clock on those days.
I mean,
Can you repeat those days for us?
The 21st and 22nd,
Which are weekdays, which would not
22nd.
be correct,
yeah, the night of the 20th, true. Yeah. Yeah.
correct.
I mean, we're talking nighttime work. We're talking work.
So Yom Kippur begins
Sunday.
on Friday night. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't have the
So,
calendar in
right.
front of me. So it would end at sundown on
on
Saturday.
So actually, Saturday night work technically wouldn't interfere because
That's correct,
sunset would
okay.
be.
All right. Good.
You're referring to November, though, correct?
No.
No.
September.
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 Yeah.
Oh,
Right
yeah.
when you wanna
So-
start.
So you're
Last
talking,
Saturday-
but you're referring to either next weekend?
I'm
or the
talking about
following
next
weekend.
weekend or the following weekend.
So next weekend, I assure you, we will not be ready to move.
But the Saturday after that
The
is the
Saturday
day that,
after
is the
that?
day that Yom Kippur ends, based on what you're telling me.
Friday night
Friday it
is the
begins.
issue. Friday night's the issue.
Yes, it is. And they're not asking for, I don't believe, any extension of noisy work on Friday night past 7 o'clock.
True. They would have noisy work until 7.
Right.
I mean, if it came down to requesting that we do not begin work or begin a Saturday work until the following Saturday, as in the first weekend of November, we can certainly oblige to that.
But
What if we said, so we can have a sunset of December 1st, we can have a sunrise of October 1st?
Yeah.
So you're suggesting that work not begin,
That this temporary noise ordinance does not go into effect until October 1st of 2017 and terminates on no later than December 1st. That gives you,
That gives me a week to get CBRE and a week to get contracts, and it's realistic.
and then you have an 8 or 9 week
That's right.
period of time in there.
I think that's fair enough, and we can certainly oblige to that.
and Ken, what is your suggestion on that first Saturday when the work is going to be more intensive?
So just listening and understanding the variance of how construction work goes, I'm going to suggest that we allow, the board passes a local law that allows extended hours until midnight, Monday through Friday, and until 10 PM on Saturday and Sunday, and that noisy work be restricted to no later than 7 PM Sunday through Friday, so that you can do noisy work until 10 PM on Saturday, all of the Saturdays. And my thought is, there's going to be some need for some flexibility. I'd rather have a law that you enact that works than one that is not working and we're either enforcing it and not wanting to enforce it, or we're turning a blind eye to something we should be enforcing.
Let me ask one more question. Often, and the history of this law, most often, we have not done them for private construction projects. I can recall one instance where we have. Most private projects adhere to our hours, but we understand the bank and some of the security issues that you have necessitate something different. With highway projects, we have often, the contractors have agreed to disable backup alarms and use and have a human to sort of a flag person, if you will. I don't know if that's the correct terminology, Tim, but someone manually serving as sort of a flag person in lieu of a backup alarm. Now, I don't know whether that's something, okay, I'm hearing the applicant saying no, shaking his head.
Yeah, that's actually
Okay.
a willful OSHA
That's fine.
violation now.
Don't
I
even.
think that used to
right,
be allowed at some point.
Right, if we say no backup alarm, we're saying no trucks
Right.
after a certain.
Okay.
Sure.
That's what we're saying.
And again, I just want to, I really want to make sure, because as Ken said, what we want to avoid is a situation where inadvertently
Sure.
you find yourself in violation of the law, and we want you to be able to do this work this season. We know that's an imperative.
So if the town board is tracking through the law, if you have it up in front of you, I can tell you where the specific changes are. In section 3, paragraph A, sub 1, I have added Sunday to the clause that reads between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m. on Saturday, and then I've added and Sunday as permitted hours. On sub-paragraph 2, right under that, defining what is noisy work, I have defined noisy work now as being limited to be performed no later than 7 p.m. Sunday through Friday. The following paragraph, which reads, this paragraph 3, work to be performed after 7 p.m. Sunday through Friday, it now reads. And that's to consist of the hand tools and whatnot.
The defined term substantial completion would change to December 1st.
Right, I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
And paragraph 7, which says that all contract and subcontract documents restrict the use of backup alarms, chop saws, generators, compressors, and the performance of any noisy work as defined after 7 p.m. Sunday through Friday. So by doing that, so far, what we've done is opened Saturdays till 10 p.m. without any noisy work restriction on Saturdays at all. But the noisy work restrictions do apply after 7 p.m. Sunday through Friday, but you can work until those later hours. You can work until midnight, Monday through Friday, and until 10 o'clock on Sunday.
Ken, I'm just going to, because we are still in the public hearing, some of this discussion doesn't necessarily have to take place in the confines of the public hearing. We can do this drafting once we finish the public hearing, if we've heard all of the comments that everybody
I don't,
has.
yeah, I would like to get it on the record so
Okay,
that, because
that's
I
fine.
don't have a written
All right.
law that provides all of these changes.
Okay,
I'd like there to
that's
be
fine.
a record of what these changes are.
Carry on.
And I'm almost done. I've changed the effective date provision, which is section 5, to read that this law, local law shall take effect no earlier than October 1st, 2017, and immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. And then finally, the sunset provision, which is gone out of this copy.
Shouldn't it say shall take effect immediately upon filing, not
Oh, the
sooner
substantial, I'm
than
sorry.
October 1st?
Shall take effect immediately, not sooner than October, that's fine, we could phrase it that way. And substantial completion, as you had started to say, Supervisor, is no event, but in no event, no later than December 1st, 2017. So that would be the end date of the waiver provisions.
And I'm going to, if I may, just ask one more question. Often, generally, we have gotten a commitment to provide a contact phone number of a four-person, someone who will be on or immediately available to be on the site. Is that a commitment that you can make, that that there will be someone?
There absolutely will be someone on
Yeah.
site. LaChase, we have a policy of 100% supervision.
Great.
So we will have a superintendent on site whenever this work is being performed.
So
We
that
have
person,
we have two superintendents right now, which we could end up having both of them at some point throughout the project, so.
well, we don't need the name and the phone number and all that at this point, but simply knowing that we can include in there the fact that there will be a supervisory person whose phone number will be made available to the town and to the public.
Well, you can also take my number. I am the
Okay.
project manager
Great.
for both of these projects as
Perfect.
well, so I'd be happy to let you have my number also, but I would be the second call.
Okay.
And that's already included in the local law as paragraph 1.
Yes, you're right. I apologize. It is in there. I did miss that. Yeah. Any other comments from any of the board members? Any other comments or questions from anyone in the audience? Hearing none, then I declare this public hearing to be closed. And I would ask first for a motion to, you have a motion, a resolution in front of you, and I would note that that motion would now reflect the proposed local law as it has been amended by Ken's reading into the record. So if, can I ask you, Jim, to
Sure.
make that
And the matter
motion?
before us regarding the Bank of America's application, I propose we move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town with the appropriate amendments as prepared or as stated this evening
By the town.
by the town attorney.
And a second from Chris Warner. Thank you. Any discussion?
I think we've got it.
I'd just like to say thank you for considering and coming to a resolution for us, because we appreciate it and definitely appreciate your stance and the public stance here.
And thank you for your willingness to be patient with us as we drill down into these details.
That's all right.
It is important, and I appreciate your willingness to do that. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the part of the board? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonte?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner? Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Done.
And we'll hope for good weather.
Yes. Yes, yes.
And late asphalt plant
I
staying
think
open.
we will do everything to try to accelerate the asphalt portion of it.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll move on to our second public hearing. Are you good? Okay. We'll move on to our second public hearing, the proposed community choice aggregation local law of 2017. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
Yes, supervisor notice was in the August 31st edition of the Post.
Thank you, and notice was posted of that, I gather. Then I declare this public hearing to be open. I do want to, as we start, and I'll ask for input from the audience in just a moment, but I do want to recite for the record that the record of a public hearing that was held at our last meeting will also be incorporated in the record of this public hearing tonight as part of the record that the board will consider when they consider taking action on this local law. So with that having been said, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on the proposed community choice aggregation local law? I see Judy's hand up. Judy?
Good Good evening. My name is Judy Schwartz, and I live at 179 Ashbourne Road. I fully support the town of Brighton becoming part of a community choice aggregation, joining with others in our area and other parts of New York State. I am not as eloquent or knowledgeable as Robin Wilt and Eric Hittinger were at the August 23rd meeting. However, I do know that a CCA will offer us the opportunity to purchase renewable energy, which is the way to go to help reduce climate change. Brighton has talked about going green for several years, but this is truly the first major initiative that is really very green. ACC also offers a cost savings to residents, which is another benefit. Once again, I strongly urge the town board to adopt proposed community choice aggregation local law 2017 to further the town's efforts to become even greener.
Thank you. I'm glad you said even greener, because I do think that the town has taken many significant issues to become a greener and more sustainable community. Thank you. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Susan Hughes Smith, and I live on Edgewood Avenue here in Brighton. Thank you so much for all of your work. It really was interesting to watch you in the last public hearing, and I appreciate your concern for our quality of life and protecting that here in Brighton. You know, I've been twice to your Public Works Committee meeting with my colleague Ben Freevert from the Rochester People's Climate Coalition. We are the not-for-profit organization that has been leading the initiative in our region to get a CCA up and running. So obviously I am very much in favor of it. Passing enabling legislation just allows you to consider the option. It's not a commitment at this time. I think that's really important, but you can't discover the possibilities for us until you pass that local law and designate an administrator for the program. And working in concert with these other municipalities will really add emphasis and allow you to really get the benefits of doing it. Our organization has both short and long-term goals for community choice aggregation. In the short term, it can really be used to green the grid and our local supply, but on the long term, it allows us to really grow renewable energy very rapidly. If we can use the contract to incorporate new solar production into our area, that will free up investors, and we'll see solar energy continue to grow. And that would be great for the overall Rochester economy. So we hope that you consider that as you move forward, and yes, to continue to make Brighton live up to our commitment as a climate smart community and all the wonderful benefits that brings. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Yes.
My name is Ayla Spiller, and I am a Brighton resident and high school student, and I came to represent the Climate Club of Brighton High School and voice our support of community choice aggregation and convey a message from our leadership. Our place in this interdependent economic system gives us the ability to change it ourselves, and community choice aggregation is a great method of creating such change. Besides simply contributing to a reduction in pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, CCA will also stimulate the local economy and reduce energy costs, making the future of our community more prosperous as well as conscientious. As students of Brighton High School, this is the kind of future we would like to see in the town that we call home. Voting for the CCA is a significant step in reducing the footprint of our community and paving the way for mass incentivizing of renewable and clean energy sources. We believe that it is our responsibility to actively address these prevalent environmental issues, and we'd be proud to see our community be a leader in this effort.
Thank you very much. And thanks to the entire Climate Club. Yes, I should have mentioned, thank you, you anticipated me. If anybody would like written comments to be included, you know, those verbatim in the record, please hand them to the clerk. But thank you for doing that. Robin.
Hi, my name is Robin Wilt. I am a resident of Brighton at 2695 East Avenue. And on August 23rd, I spoke in support of the Brighton Town Board paving the way for the proposed community choice aggregation law of 2017. Tonight, I'm redoubling my staunch support for the town board moving forward with regard to this law. I understand that out of an abundance of caution, the board may table or defer a vote on this issue. So I would like to address some of the concerns that may be underlying the reticence with the board proceeding. I'm appending a frequently asked question or fact sheet developed by the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, NYSERDA, that may help to allay some concerns that the town board may have regarding taking this initial step toward implementing community choice aggregation. Without belaboring the points that I've already made in favor of community choice aggregation, I'd like to emphasize that the purpose of CCA is to allow participating local governments simply to procure energy supply service and distributed energy resources for eligible energy customers within the community. Our eligible energy customers in Brighton will have the opportunity to opt out of the procurement aspect of energy consumption while maintaining the transmission and distribution service from the existing distribution utility, which is RG&E for the most part in this area. In effect, the CCA is creating a collective purchasing to help them source more sustainable energy at improved costs. The town of Brighton would not be alone in its efforts to create and administer the CCA. Not only would NYSERDA assist our local governments and CCA administrators to develop the CCA program and law, but NYSERDA also offers resources to help jurisdictions in the continuing evolution of the energy markets as they affect CCA efforts. CCAs are the future in New York State. New York has one of the most ambitious renewable energy visions of any state. In 2014, New York State began a series of reforms that are referred to as Reforming the Energy Vision, or REV. Under REV, the goal is for 50% renewable energy sourcing by 2030. And currently, this state is sourced at only about 11% renewable energy. REV programs, of which CCA is one, are designed to benefit both the environment and the state's economy by creating many small, local, clean power plants throughout New York and increasing the benefit of retail price competition for residential and business customers. Our business community in the Rochester area is well positioned to benefit from and innovate within the framework of CCA programs. I would urge the board again to place Brighton squarely in line with Governor Cuomo's Reforming Energy Vision, or REV strategy, to build a stronger economy and foster a healthier environment. It's an opportunity of which we should avail ourselves in order to honor Brighton's commitment to its envisioned plan to implement sustainable policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. I will say that this fact sheet and frequently asked questions is very helpful. I see some of the questions that we've internally been discussing relating to CCA program here, and they'll be in the record. And so thank you for introducing that into the record. Is there anyone else that would like to? Yes, sir.
I'm going to read this off my phone.
Absolutely. And by the way, if
you
do want to submit it in writing, it can be submitted by email to the town clerk, and Dan will give you the email address when you're finished.
Great. My name is Don Kerwin. I've been a resident of Brighton for almost 20 years. I've worked in the utility industry for almost twice as long, working for RG&E, Niagara Mohawk, National Grid, Con Edison, and Rochester Instrument Systems. I had a lot of jobs. So. When the RPCC approached me to help promote the CCA program, I was very skeptical, as my wife will tell you I am most of the time. However, after meeting with ratepayers, regulators, environmentalists, and public servants like yourself, I have wholeheartedly become an advocate. As an industry professional and utility ratepayer, I believe the regulated utility should be in the delivery arena only, doing what they do best with the wires and transformers and things that I'm very well aware of. By offering our residents the opportunity to aggregate the supply portion of our electricity, we will all have the buying power of larger industrial, commercial, and municipal customers. And with a 100% renewable goal, fixed price, long-term contract, we will all be helping to reduce our carbon footprint. And once we've got the program in place, there will be other opportunities for participants to conserve energy and develop local renewable generation, power made where it's used. Please consider passing this law in Brighton to allow all of our Brighton neighbors to take advantage of valuable renewable power and help develop local renewable projects. And thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board?
Good evening. My name's Ben Freevert, and I am not a Brighton resident. I live a bit south of here in West Bloomfield, but I am a member of the leadership team at the Rochester People's Climate Coalition, and I think we've met with you, a number of you, a few times to explain the CCA program. And I guess I wanted to point out that this is an opportunity for the town of Brighton to take a bit of a leadership role here, because as we're working with some of the other communities in the greater Rochester area, to follow on a bit with what Sue said, there are some other municipalities moving on this, but we'd like to see it, of course, moving much faster. And so we're hopeful that the town of Brighton will pass this quickly in order to play that leadership role and convince some of the other communities to follow on quickly as well, so that we can get the CCA in place more quickly. I think that this is a tremendous opportunity to do something at a local level to address climate change, and that, it's hard to do something at a local level that will have this much impact regarding climate change. So that's part of the reason I'm very much in support of this. I also wanted to say that the Rochester People's Climate Coalition will continue to be available as a resource if there are questions about CCA moving forward, or if you run into problems or issues. And as you know, we have an interest in the being part of the administrative component of that. But even if that doesn't come to pass, we will remain available as a resource to the town if there are questions about CCA, should you pass it and move forward with it. So that's all I've got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I didn't prepare anything.
Quite all right.
My name is Stephanie Booth. I live at 53 Chelmsford Road. I definitely encourage you to support the Community Choice Aggregation Local Law of 2017. We signed up with Sun Common. It's a small solar farm that will provide local energy, and there's efficiencies also in electricity made locally. You don't lose as much energy when the lines aren't as long, so you don't lose as much energy when it's transported. And I think it will encourage other types of energy to be developed also, and even things we don't know about yet. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during this public hearing? I've been reading these questions and fact sheets that Robin submitted, and they're very helpful. We've had some internal discussions here as we have worked through this, and so I appreciate that material that I think will help us as we look at the template, and it is a template that we are considering tonight. It is based on a template from NYSERDA, But it's my understanding that within certain bounds, we do have the ability to be flexible on exactly what the final text of the local law that we would approve would be. Are there any comments or questions from the board? I would just say right now, as we generally do when we're looking at fairly technical local laws, and this certainly qualifies as that, is that what I would like to see us do is take these comments from these two hearings, in particular, work with these NYSERDA materials, use those to review and take a look at the local law, discuss some of the issues that we've been discussing internally with council, with an eye towards bringing this back, not tonight for a vote, but just as soon as we can, possibly as early as our next board meeting. But having said that, are there comments or questions that you need to have on the record
Bill,
for this?
I think you know that I support CCA and I'm very much in favor of it. I'm concerned about the details, though. I expected a bit more general a recitation in the statute that was provided to us, but the thing that I'm most concerned about, and I'm in this group now, of elderly neighbors, that having been stung once by an ESCO that I don't remember signing up for, we're going to have a lot of people that are going to be signed up for this that they're not going to have a clue about having done it. It's not just going to be the elderly, they're going to be lazy people, and I wasn't elderly.
Well, I wouldn't use that term. No, seriously. We're not talking about lazy people. We're talking about people.
All right, people in general. The tendency is to ignore whatever comes through my mail slot and it goes right into recycling. So it may not come to my attention that I've been signed up for something or even that I should be opting out, and I'll just speak for myself. The opt-out section here, there's 3 different sections, and they contradict each other. B is the one I like. All consumers shall have the option to opt out at any time without penalty. That to me says it all, doesn't it? Except for the paragraph above talks about termination fees. And the paragraph after refers to termination fees, no termination fees as long as you're moving out of the premises.
Could I address your question?
Yes.
Sure.
So if you could again state your name. Just
Sure, yeah. My name is Susan Hughes Smith from 453 Edgewood Avenue and the Rochester People's Climate Coalition. So I'm not as familiar with the template that NYSERDA gave out. I did forward to the Public Works Committee and the mayor a template that had been used in Westchester and that's being used by the other municipalities locally that does not lay out those 3 different options. So while there are different options, what we are recommending is that it always be free for forever.
That's
for
what we
someone
recommend too.
to opt out, and that's the only thing that you should have to have in your law. You know, if you want that to be law, then yeah, it should always be free. We absolutely agree with that. I understand your concern about people being stung by ESCOs, and we very much see CCA as a protection for people because we have many eyes looking at this contract, and you shouldn't accept a contract that isn't fixed rate so that it can't balloon up, which is what these other ESCOs are doing. So you ensure that it's a fixed rate, and you shouldn't sign it if it's not below what the utility can provide us. And so there is kind of an impetus to take advantage of the fact that utility rates are quite low right now. And if you wait too long, we will lose this window of opportunity to really lock in this kind of historic rate because no one's going to do it if they can't beat it, if that makes some sense.
And that's what I want. That's what we're hoping for, is as we study this and refine the language and with the help of counsel, and I'm an attorney too, but I'd rather not play that role.
Right, absolutely. And the public outreach, the ruling, and I know Ben is more familiar with this aspect than I am, there has to be at least 2 months of outreach after the contract has been negotiated before it goes into effect. that the community has to have had, been informed about it. The administrator would do that role in concert with you. Certain letters have to go out on town letterhead, but then you can have other outreach events. You could dictate what community centers or what organizations would be optimal for the administrator to visit, to make those presentations, to inform people. And it very much should be, you know, something that you're doing in concert, where the administrator is doing the work, but that you all are informed and they are following what your needs are in your community. So.
I'm
Yeah.
pleased to hear it. I'm just concerned when, you heard my concern, that
Sure.
someone gets signed up for something they don't remember signing up for.
Right.
And they don't care what it's all about, they just want out.
Well, and you will have,
To get out
yeah.
without charge.
And you will have a surprise, because most people won't pay attention to their electric bill comes. Their electric bill will look exactly the same, except for where it says energy supply, there would be a new name for the community choice aggregation program.
Will it come on one bill?
Yes, it'll be
Yes, it
the
will.
same exact bill. RG&E still has to issue the bill. That's still required by law, and it will look exactly the same to them, except where it says supply, there's the name of the CCA program would be on that line.
The fact that it's not a separate bill that has to be paid.
Correct.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Ken, do you know, is this draft local law based on the Westchester? Is that what you had sent over, Sue? Or is this a different NYSERDA sort of format or a hybrid? Do you know?
I don't recall,
Okay.
but I could probably give you an answer in
Sure.
a couple minutes.
That's all right. I'm not sure it's important in the short term, because we did identify, and certainly this inconsistent language relating to opt-out in this draft is very much a problem. It certainly, my goal is not to flag it and say that's a reason we shouldn't do it. My goal is to make it right so we
Right.
can
Absolutely.
set up a good
And
CCA.
certainly, we would completely support you in that, yeah.
Good. Any other
Anything else I can
questions
help you
that
with?
members of the board have? Any other questions that members of the audience, any comments before we close this public hearing?
I think Chris, in my opinion, said it well, and I agree with that.
And there are, there are a number of other areas in this contract that we've spent some time
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
flesh out, and I can see in here, in this fact sheet, a lot of information that's going to be very helpful in that regard. So if there are no other comments, I declare this public hearing to be closed, and it is my expectation that we will bring this proposed local law back for a vote. I do not, although we'll rely on council as to whether any changes are so extensive as to require an additional public hearing, but it is certainly my hope that we can bring it back for a vote as soon as possible, and very much so my hope is that we'll continue to be at the vanguard of sustainable activities with this,
Well, yeah. leading
the way into a CCA.
I'd like to thank you all very much for your time, not just this evening, but in the other two Public Works Committee meetings. I certainly am disappointed we're not moving a little faster. You've had over 100 community members who have submitted written comments that we've shared with you, starting last January. And 10 people were here and spoke to you in favor of CCA just last month. And we have a similar number here this evening. So we hope that you will take that full body of evidence into consideration. How often do you have people coming in favor of their town doing something? So hope to work with you and speak with you. Really, we are, the coalition's available whenever you have questions.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
And I have an answer to your question.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I'm not sure it's an exact answer, but the draft that we based it on, the CCA draft legislation we based it on, was provided to me by our town engineer after he met and you met with representatives of RPCC.
Okay, so I think that then is what Sue is referring to, not necessarily the NYSERDA, but actually based on what I think is the Westchester model. Good, okay. Good.
Sue, thank you for coming to Public Works Committee.
And if there, and did I formally close the hearing?
Yes, you did.
So we're closed. The stenographer is saying no, just so it's clear.
The town attorney and the stenographer say no.
The public hearing is now closed.
Now you have.
Well,
Thank you.
he did actually do it before.
Jim and I, you were thanking Sue, and
Yeah, that's all.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Again, we do have a lot of material, and we appreciate all of the enthusiastic support. We will, as you saw us on the first public hearing, we do sweat the small stuff. And we will sweat the details because this is an important and a very major, and I believe positive, change for the community. We want to make sure that when we do this kind of a program that we are doing it right. And so we're going to take all of this, and we hope we're going to have a bunch of other jurisdictions to be working with sooner rather than later to bring this to reality. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
We will move on to communications. Can I have a motion to receive and file communications this evening?
So moved. Second.
We have a letter from a resident thanking one of our judges, Judge John Falk, but also Town Constable Frankel, and who is, by the way, no relation to former Supervisor Frankel. We also have correspondence from the Red Cross thanking the town not only for its most recent blood drive on August 29th, but it notes that the past 2 blood drives have been particularly exceptional, and noting that we are a Silver Premier partner with the Red Cross in 2016, having positively impacted 300 lives, which is always good to know. And finally, correspondence from Amy Stein, who is the president of the National Council of Jewish Women, thanking me for, and really thanking the entire board for unanimously adopting the resolution proclaiming Women's Equality Day on August 26, 2017. So,
28th.
Any comments on any of those? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Committee reports. Community Services Committee. Chris?
Bill, our next meeting is next Wednesday, the 20th at 9:30, Wednesday, again at Brookside School, and the public is encouraged to attend.
Thank you. Finance Committee. Jason?
Yes, Finance Committee met on September 5th. Each of the items reviewed during the Finance Committee will appear on tonight's agenda. Our next meeting will be held on Tuesday, September 19th at 3:30 in the afternoon. We meet in the Stage Conference Room here at Town Hall, and the public is invited to attend.
Thank you, Jason. Louise, Public Safety?
Yes, Public Safety met yesterday morning and at 8 o'clock. In networking, the Brighton Police Department on August 25th was held at the, I'm sorry, I wanted to ask the chief if he would talk to us about the multi-agency event that they had at the JCC.
What we talked about at Public Safety, Louise, was the fact that on Friday, August 25th, the Brighton Police, Brighton Fire, Brighton Volunteer Ambulance, the Sheriff, the New York State Police, and a number of county agencies participated in a drill. And the drill was designed to talk to evaluate our interagency interoperability, and was very pleased with the outcome. It showed that we may not all wear the same uniform, but we all are on the same page.
The chief also told us that crime is up all over the place, actually mostly in theft, and he wants to remind everybody to always lock your car, even if it's in your driveway or in your garage. Be sure your house windows are on the first floor are closed and locked at nighttime. He and the other police chiefs are saying that they think this is partly because of the rise in the heroin and opiate epidemic, and of course everybody's working on this to help end it. The Brighton Fire.
I just want to caution you on the statement is crime is rising all over the place.
In all areas, I meant.
We have had a significant number of larcenies that largely from vehicles that have fallen into two categories: unlocked vehicles and vehicles where there are valuables in plain sight. And for those types of larcenies, we have seen some very high numbers, and the chief and I and everybody really have worked very hard to get the message out there. Lock your car. Lock your car when it's in the garage. Lock your car when it's in the driveway. Lock your car if it's at the school, the park. Please lock your car, and please don't leave anything visible. But I just want to clarify for the public that when we say crime is up all over the place, there are certain types of crimes that we have seen a large number of.
I can continue now?
Yes.
Thank you. The Brighton Fire Department has received 1,836 calls year to date. They got their new truck, and it'll be in service within 30 days at the Clover Street Station. Another truck is on order, and they will receive it by the end of the year, or within a year. And at that time, all their frontline trucks will be new. On Sunday, October 1st, between 12 and 3, the fire department will hold their annual open house at the East Avenue Station. Brighton Ambulance has had 465 calls in August, as well as helping to cover calls for mutual aid. They also participated in the program at the JCC. A special event was held yesterday, which the ambulance people called Meet the Rescuers. A victim from a serious motor vehicle accident 2 years ago came to the ambulance headquarters to meet the public safety team that saved his life. It was a very moving ceremony, and everybody from the 911 operator who answered the call to those who got him to the hospital were there to greet him and for him to thank them all in person. It was a great ceremony. The Department of Public Works stated that the department is working with the Corbett's Glen Committee to find a solution to the parking problems at the Penfield Road entrance to the park. Old business, the homecoming event was a big success, and many felt that the attendance exceeded that of last year. They're not sure if it's going to continue to be on Saturdays. It just depends when the football games are, I think. New business, a discussion was held regarding the speeds on Warren Avenue, Hibiscus, and South Landing Road, all of which are considered cut-through streets. The town and the police will continue to work on this problem. As chair of the Public Safety Committee, I started a program with the 3 first responder organizations in which we are reminding our citizens about the Town of Brighton address display law. And you will see, if any of you come into Town Hall, there's this poster that we made, I see it, which states there is safety in numbers. If we can't find you, we can't help you. And seconds count, please help us find you. When I had been going door to door when I was campaigning, and others have noticed that there are people who do not have their addresses on their homes, and it makes it very difficult if that particular street, there are no lights or sidewalks, and sometimes the first responders, it takes them a little bit longer to find it, and that little bit of time can be life-threatening. So we are asking them to be reminded that you have to have numbers on the front of your house that can be seen from the street. The numbers should be at least 4 inches tall and half an inch wide. And we have, wherever these flyers are, there's an explanation of the type of numbers that you should have. The next meeting will be, for the public safety, will be on October 4th, 8 o'clock in the morning in the downstairs meeting room. The public is welcome.
Thank you, Louise. Jim, Public Works?
Yeah, Public Works met yesterday morning as well. And at the time, during the open forum, we had a number of the residents from Susquehanna Road attending to asking for an update regarding their proposed drainage project, which is on our calendar. And we informed them that that will be deferred, but will be done later this year, late fall, early winter. And under old business.
That's our expectation.
That's our
We're going to make
expectation.
every effort
Yes.
to do that. Obviously, weather and other factors beyond anybody's control can be challenging.
But that's where we have it on the schedule, though. All right. Sustainability. The committee met again with regard to the proposed local law that we just discussed here tonight in the hearing. And that hearing that took place tonight. The sustainability, the committee also discussed a proposed law regarding energy benchmarking for municipal buildings, which will allow the town to monitor annual energy usage. So we've got more to follow on that. Under the, also on the agenda, farmers market, the Department of Public Works staff has prepared the environmental assessment form for this project and for the town board to declare its intent to be a lead agency and with regard to that program, that project. Also, the developmental proposal at 1201 Elmwood Avenue. Now, this is the old psych center, Rochester Psychiatric Center, the Terrence Building, that 17-story building. The developer provided an update for us at the Public Works Committee meeting regarding the proposed plans for redevelopment of the above site, which is situated in the city of Rochester as well as in the town of Brighton. And the city has approved demolition for the existing Terrence Building. However, as you would expect, actual demolition will not occur for some time due to permitting and abatement activities that still need to be performed. And then another matter with regard to Corbett's Glen Nature Park. Parking continues to be a real challenge. Obviously, it's a result of the popularity of Corbett's Glen as a beautiful work of nature. Our town engineer, Mike Guyon, presented a proposed modification to better clarify the permitted parking and no parking areas, which really should assist park visitors where it is permissible to park. And of course, Brighton Police Department will be there relative to enforcement of parking regulations. This plan was really the result of a discussion with the Glen Road residents themselves, as well as the Brighton Police Department. Any additional comments on that, Mark?
Mike Guyon and I went up and met with Dennis Adams in the neighborhood. We're looking for a little bit of further clarification and clarity to define parking restrictions. What we find and what I've heard from my staff is that they've been up at very busy times, and it was kind of confusing. And so we give credit to Mike and Dennis. We've got some clarity, and it'll help us enforce the no parking moving forward.
Good. And that concludes our report. And the next Public Works Committee meeting will be on Tuesday, October 4th at 9 a.m. in the lower level community meeting room.
Thank you, Jim. New business, reading and approval of claims. Jason.
Yes, Bill, earlier today I reviewed claims totaling $358,353.34. Notable claims include to Pipitone Enterprises Incorporated in the amount of $23,895.02, representing the release of the retainage for the public Safety Wing HVAC project that took place last year. Also to Amchar Wholesale in the amount of $9,906 for the purchase of 26 mid-cut ballistic helmets for the Brighton Police Department. And this is actually going to be reimbursed by New York State through a personal protection grant. And also to Andrew Osborne in the amount of $315, representing fees to conduct the Young Scientist Program for youth through the Recreation Department. And that, of course, will be reimbursed by participants' fees paid to the Rec Department. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second.
Any discussion on those? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner? Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Chris?
Bill, the next item is to authorize supervisor to execute an agreement with the Rochester Monroe County Youth Bureau to support the youth program funding requirements for 2017. I move that we adopt the resolution prepared by the attorney for the town before us.
Second.
This is a program that we have participated in, specifically the Recreation Department, led by Becky Cotter, has participated in with funding support from the County Youth Bureau. I would note that that support, although it's been long-standing, has been slowly decreasing, which is unfortunate because I think anything we can do to work with our kids in a positive way is a good thing, and Becky does that and the school district does that. So, but they will continue to do, I think, frankly, more, a lot more than what they're actually reimbursed for, and that's a good thing for the whole community.
And I've been attending those meetings regularly for I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. And Robin says that she's interested in continuing going to the meetings. They're once every 3 months or so at the school at noontime.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio? Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jim?
Next item is to approve the extension for the completion date from September 13th of 2017 to December 31st of 2017 for the final environmental impact statement for the proposed Whole Foods project. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Discussion?
I think that it's about time we move on this. It's putting it off again it's just I don't know. I think it's wrong.
Are you prepared then to submit a proposed final environmental impact statement this evening?
You want me to do it?
No, I'm because if
That's what we
if we vote
what we
against
have to have.
this extension this evening, the final environmental impact statement that the developer has submitted will become the final environmental impact statement for the project. And I am not satisfied with the final environmental impact statement as it currently is stated. I'm not happy to be extending it either. But I think this will give us, and I really anticipate one last extension period for the parties involved, because I agree that it is time to complete the environmental review. And to do that, we're going to need the developer, we're going to need the state DOT to make some commitments from my perspective, because from that final environmental impact statement, we have a limited amount of time to then prepare a finding statement, which are the findings under which we either say, if you do A, B, and C, we can consider this project, or we don't believe you can do what is necessary to mitigate. But we would have a limited amount of time to do that after the final environmental impact statement is complete. So I certainly understand, and frankly, I share your frustration that we're extending this again, but and I'm certainly not prepared to approve what they have already submitted, but if we do not take action extending this tonight, arguably that's what we will have done. And so I guess I'm not disagreeing with you, but would encourage you to support this resolution because for that reason it is important. We have a motion and a second. Any further comments?
Just a quick question. So the final environmental impact statement has been prepared by the developer, and right now our consultants and our staff are reviewing that for?
There is a
That's exactly
preliminary.
right.
Yeah.
Staff has reviewed it. Our traffic consultant has reviewed it. We have some comments back from the traffic consultant. Staff has reviewed those comments. We have some additional questions that we're asking of the developer and their team to get more specific answers. Most of this, as you know, has to do with traffic. I would say that we're very close, and I'm hoping within the next week or so that we should be in a position to start making substantive changes. But I know you've all seen that final environmental impact statement, and it's quite a lengthy document. And the same level of particularity to detail that we put into all of the other matters we put into tonight, we're putting into that, maybe even more so, because it's a big deal. We want to make sure we get it right so that when we put in front of you, I'm saying as the staff, put in front of you a final environmental impact statement, we have confidence as your professional staff that that's a document that adequately and sufficiently addresses all of the issues that have come before this board and give you the foundation to properly analyze those issues. I don't know if you want to add to that, Tim, at all.
I think that's a good summary, Ken. I hear, or people tell me secondhand again, they think it's a done deal. It is not a done deal, period. Thumbs up or thumbs down. And that's why we are going through what is a very, very extensive document with staff, with our consultant, getting input and frankly giving some pretty significant direction to the DOT and to the applicant. And let me say one more thing. There are no special deals, period. This is incentive zoning, and that's a process by which for many, many years, over 20 years, the town has conducted land use in a way that has worked to the benefit of the Brighton community with opportunities like the Brickyard Trail, Buckland Park, Meridian Center Park, and the list goes on. That's what we're doing here. We're not making any special deals. We are giving serious scrutiny to a significant proposal.
Now, is it?
Sorry, go ahead, Louise.
Does it? So you really feel that they need 3 more months?
I hope not.
Yeah.
But I don't think it. I really don't think it serves anybody to come back. I certainly plan on holding everybody's feet to the fire, including our own.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's that important. I think the community has every right, understanding that this document is hundreds, and when you include all the exhibits, thousands of pages long, and input from the consultants, staff, our own review, what we hear, what we heard in those hearings. Does take time, but it needs to conclude. Yeah. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Anything further? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Louise, next matter.
The next matter is approval to appropriate up to $4,999 from the forfeited property account to support purchase of security camera and associated items for the police department. I move on the resolution as proposed by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Mark, anything you want to say?
It's actually a forensic camera system, digitally based, and for crime scene processing. We have the approval of the Department of Justice for it.
Thank you. We have motion and a second. Anything further? Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio? Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jim?
Next item is approval to declare particular highway department equipment as surplus and authorize the disposal of same through municipal auction. I move in the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
I'm sorry, who made the second?
Chris did.
Chris, thank you. Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jim, why don't you do the next one as well?
Next item is to authorize the supervisors to execute a stormwater maintenance easement agreement together with related documents for the proposed Antonelli self-storage at Collegetown project to be located at 1266 Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road. I move in the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Tim, do you want to just briefly explain why we're taking this action?
I would be happy to, Supervisor. This is a process that we have performed in the past, and it actually is a requirement of the Clean Water Act and our Phase 2 regulations that we have to have agreements in place for stormwater management facilities. And that's in the event that the town needs to intercede or take, control in certain situations to make sure the system is performing properly if the property owner does not. So it's a safeguard, but truthfully, with everything going on, it's, our experience has been the property owners have maintained these, and this is more of a formality in case there is a problem.
Good. All right. Motion and a second, and that explanation. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Chris?
Next item is for the appointment of a particular person, that would be Karen Berger, to the Conservation Board effective immediately through June 30, 2018. I move that we adopt the resolution prepared by the attorney for the town before us and ask Karen to join our committee.
Second.
Karen has volunteered for us in the past, had some professional obligations that require her to step away, but I've got to say, we interviewed several people for this spot, and I don't know that I recall a stronger applicant pool of people and their skills. So I'm really grateful to all of them. It's a reflection of our community, and I really appreciate that.
It's hard not to accept everyone. That if we don't accept someone, it's some sort of a...
And our town code states the number of people on the Conservation Board, so we did not have that option to appoint more than one of them.
But I think we'll find service for all those folks. We don't forget.
So we have motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks approval to declare one 2003 Chevy Impala vehicle as surplus and authorize the disposal of same via public auction. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Was this a police, no?
It was given the rec department.
Recreation,
Police?
as it most recently.
Actually, it was police then rec.
Right.
We reviewed it
It
fast.
started in the
Hand
police
down.
department, then went,
It doesn't owe us anything anymore.
no, it doesn't.
Building League gave it as a gift.
Basically a 15-year-old vehicle, yeah. We have a motion and a second, and it'll go to auction. Hopefully, we'll get something for it.
Hopefully.
Motion and a second, further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Malley?
Aye. Louise?
The next matter is for approval to exercise the option within the current rezoning agreement with Legacy at Clover Blossom, formerly known as Mercy Park, related to providing medical emergency services. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Back actually in 2001, the town board adopted a rezoning of land that is now the site of what's known as the Legacy at Clover Blossom. And at the time, one of the conditions of that rezoning, and there were a number of them in a number of different areas, environmental and otherwise, there was concern that that facility would, that the number of emergency medical calls that it would generate might overtax, not financially tax, but put a strain on the ability of Brighton Volunteer Ambulance to respond to calls. A lot has changed in those 16 years. Brighton Volunteer Ambulance has evolved, has a lot longer operating history. They are prepared to become the primary service provider, as they are for almost the entire town of Brighton. And so they have come to us and asked that we consider waiving that condition that was put in that 2001 rezoning resolution, and then referenced in a mitigation agreement and some other documents and agreements relating to that rezoning. So this public hearing would be well, I'm looking at this. I thought,
If I may,
Yeah.
Supervisor, we're not setting a public hearing, we're actually taking action. So in the original resolution that was passed in 2001, part of the rezoning resolution was a mitigation agreement. And contained in that mitigation agreement is a mitigation schedule. One of those items on the schedule states, and I'm paraphrasing, but I can give you verbatim if you wish, but paraphrasing says that the developer shall contract privately for ambulance services unless this requirement is waived by the town board of the town of Brighton. So built into the original mitigation agreement, which was adopted as part of the resolution, this town board already has the power, without modifying the resolution or the rezoning in any way, to simply waive that requirement. And so the resolution just does that, exercises the option as it now exists under that mitigation agreement without the need for any modification of the actual rezoning. Since there's no rezoning modification needed, there is no public hearing needed.
that's what I was going to ask, because obviously a public hearing was held to make that zoning change, but it's your opinion that we are not fundamentally modifying the agreement. We are taking action that is contemplated by that agreement already.
Correct, and I had a discussion with our town engineer about that. I believe that our town planner was also back from his trip and was able to see that proposed as well, and I think I sent one to the commissioner as well.
Okay, good.
So I think everyone was in the loop on this, yes.
And that's the motion we have in front of us, and the motion has been made and seconded.
Now, this came in at the request of the Legacy or
At the request
BVA?
of BVA. But the Legacy, and I would note, of course, that the legacy property has recently changed hands. There is a company from Arizona that is in the business of managing and operating senior communities, has bought not only this facility but all of the legacy facilities in the Rochester area from Mark IV. And Mark IV was made aware that this change was a possibility. Obviously, there will be work once we take this action to, if we do in fact vote to waive that requirement. That doesn't flip a switch and suddenly change things. There will have to be communication as to how that is transitioned. The 911 office, for example, will get new direction in terms of how to direct calls for emergency medical service and the like. So if we take this action, I think it'll lead to some discussions and an actual cutover date, if you will, when the protocol changes will be established.
The emergency services are still being provided with the service provider being compensated, is that correct?
Today.
It's not a free service by the
Well,
legacy?
so, no, so,
Are
just
we
going,
impacting the
just going back, we are not.
Well,
Going
we
back
will
in-
be in a positive way, actually.
Perhaps in a neutral way. I don't think there really will be much of an impact. There will be ambulance service provided. There is ambulance service provided now, and I don't believe that there is any danger to the residents there.
Oh, no.
They
I'm
have
talking from
adequate and good emergency medical response now. They will continue to have good and adequate emergency medical response if Brighton Ambulance takes it over. All this does, just to take us back in history, as Bill said, in 2001, there was a concern expressed by BVA, and I can speak personally to this because at that time I was a member of BVA and a member of this board. And so it was actually my issue that I carried to the board, that BVA did not feel like they wanted to take on what was then viewed as the burden of the medical calls, the emergency medical calls that were anticipated to come out of another senior facility, frankly. In a good-sized senior facility. And so as a condition of the approval, that was one condition. We said, look, you got to go out, developers, at that time it was Mark IV, a company called Newmark, that is a subsidiary or affiliate of Mark IV. You have to go out and hire one of the local private ambulance companies. At that time, it would have been either Rural Metro or Monroe Ambulance, and have a contract so that the burden when a 911 call comes in doesn't necessarily go to BVA. And I say necessarily because BVA would still respond there if they were called for a serious cardiac issue or something where, you know, there was a need for a super immediate response, a high priority one response. And that has been the way that it's operated at the Legacy ever since. Now BVA has come to the town and said, hey, look, we have more ambulances, we have more staff, we have more professional staff. We feel that we can handle that competently, and we would like to have the business, if you will, of running the ambulance calls there. Now, whether the ambulance service is being provided by Monroe Ambulance or whoever they are now, AMR is now the successor to Rural Metro, or BVA, patients, with the exception of BVA, patients will be billed, or at least insurance companies will be paying those ambulance companies for the medical services, the emergency medical services provided. The Brighton residents, who are all living at the Legacy, will, if Brighton Ambulance becomes the service provider, get the benefit of not having to make the copay, because that's our arrangement with Brighton Ambulance, that no copay is paid because we provide a supplemental payment to Brighton Ambulance that compensates them for those taxpayers who otherwise would have to pay that fee.
And
So-
that's what I was referring to
So,
when
all
I
right, all right. So that's
suggested
the
that this
benef-
would be a benefit to the
benefit,
residents
a small,
of that
small financial benefit, right? No real, service benefit, but it's still up to the institution itself, the legacy, to decide whether they wish to continue to contract privately or not. So it's up to them to provide those medical services to their residents. We're just not requiring it anymore. And that whole transition that the supervisor was talking about, that would also be handled by the emergency medical squads, wouldn't be handled by the town, really. The BVA and/or whoever has the contract over there now would notify OAC to make those changes, so.
Thank you.
That's how that all works.
Beautiful. Okay, we have that motion and second. Good discussion. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Chris?
Next item is to authorize the approval to seek lead agency status for the Brighton Town Board pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SEQR, for the Brighton Farmers Market project. I move that we adopt the resolution prepared by the attorney for the town before us.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion?
Seems entirely appropriate.
Yep.
We're most familiar, we're most impacted by the project, and
Yeah, you bet.
And, actually a fair amount of, one of the significant issues that might otherwise be there, the historic survey has already been done on that property, which will help this project get done quicker, and one more step to begin the time that we can begin construction on a new winter farmers market. Okay, motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council to serve as and provide liaison services associated with the April 2020 census project. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
It's hard to believe. We're already looking out at another census, but in April of 2020, that's exactly what's going to be going on. Dan, do you want to talk about what you've already done related to the census?
Briefly, I'll touch on it, Supervisor. Largely, this is an inside baseball piece at this point. Basically, what this is in order to make sure that all the residential properties in town are counted in the next census. Genesee Regional is been tasked with trying to identify all those. So they're asking for the help from the municipalities to identify, the apartment over top of a business, or we have to take into account the county jail as a temporary residence for a number of people that temporarily reside in the town of Brighton and will at that point. The MCC dorms, any other unusual housing situations. They found that in their area of coverage at the last census, they missed 85,000 addresses. So if you multiply however many residents may have been in said addresses, that's a lot of people that this region missed out on in the census. And as the board is well aware, the census determines a lot of federal funding things like CBDG grants. I think I mixed up those letters, but so it's very important that we have an accurate count, and we want to make sure that we're fairly represented in the House of Representatives as well. So that all goes in. So this allows the town to designate the Regional Planning Council as our liaison, so they will do all the number crunching for us. So they're going to save us a whole ton of work because they're good at it.
Good.
Now, I will just note that I am a member of the board of the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council. Ken, should I recuse from voting on this matter?
Are you paid for that position?
I am not.
Do you receive any financial benefit?
I do not.
enjoy voting on this.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I wanted that to be on the record, and I wanted to walk through that. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Bentley?
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, a couple of these things have already been discussed. The first one I want to mention, Louise already described, and she used the exact word that I would use, moving. The Brighton Voluntary Ambulance, the Dan Nilsson event yesterday, truly was moving. His own personal words, in his own presence, he talked about the chain that started when a driver on Clinton Avenue saw something. We talk about this a lot. If you see something, say something. Now, a lot of times we mean, we're thinking of that person in the shadows who may be, trying to open a car door in someone's driveway. But in this case, what it meant was a car in a snowdrift where it didn't belong on an extremely cold day in January. And because that person said something and reached a 911 dispatcher who relayed the call, and Brighton Volunteer Ambulance, the Sheriff's Department, and the Fire Department all responded, that chain, those agencies, those people, starting with the person who saw something and said something, saved Mr. Nielsen's life. And seeing him there with his wife and his kids and his grandson, that's extraordinary work. And it's, the chief talked earlier about joint training. I've been involved as a, largely a spectator in that incident, in that training session, and a previous training session at MCC, watching our agencies work together, listening to our agencies telling the story, and listening to Mr. Nielsen tell the story from his own perspective of how those agencies work together. Wow.
They said that he had broken his back in the accident, couldn't move. Several places, and that if they had been much later, he would have frozen to death, that he was trying to keep his back up a little bit so that he wouldn't be laying on it, and then so his arms kind of froze like that, and he said all of the responders were so kind in not only what they were doing, but in trying to calm him down, and the words they were saying to him, "You're going to be okay. We got you. You're good. This is going to hurt a little because they had to move him, but you're going to be fine." And it gave him hope, and it was really, really. And I spoke for over a half an hour afterwards. I was talking to his wife, and what she and everybody associated with him go through as well.
And talk about paying it forward, because not only does it have that happy ending that he walked onto the stage with the help of a cane, but he walked out there. But it had another happy ending. It changed his life because he took a civil service exam and now works as a dispatcher for the 911 system in Wayne County. Talk about paying it forward. It changed his daughter's life, who, although was studying music, has gone on and is herself pursuing a health-related career. And his daughter, who said, "Dad, have you ever thought about thanking those people?" So just the way in all of these wonderful people, not only Mr. Nielsen and his family, who were wonderful people, but every link in the chain, it was extraordinary. I won't belabor homecoming anymore, other than to say it was a great event, and again, was an opportunity for the town to work in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce and the school district, two of our very important, very best partners in improving the quality of life here in Brighton, and I thank both of them and all the individuals who made homecoming festivities a success. I'm going to say it again because it's so important. We've said, if you see something, say something a lot tonight, but I'm also going to remind people, please, when you park your car in your driveway, at the grocery store, at the park, in your garage, please lock your car. That time after time when you read our blotter, items stolen from unlocked vehicle, items stolen from unlocked vehicle. It is a common thread. And I think one other thing that's, and our police department investigates these, they take a report. Time that they spend, and I don't want to blame anybody. I don't think it's useful to blame people. We all have reasons, things slip our minds. But our police department is doing a lot. You heard Mark talk earlier about the work they're doing with the Jewish community and other institutions that are important to the community. We hear all the time people concerned about traffic enforcement, wanting to make sure our police officers are on the street as they are, enforcing speed limits and making sure people, when they encounter our crossing guards, are doing what they're supposed to. People aren't passing school buses with red lights flashing. And again, without blaming people, it's important to note that time taken away investigating thefts of vehicles, thefts of items from unlocked cars is time that those officers are not out on the street enforcing speed limits or doing other things that our police officers need to do. So please lock your cars. Please don't leave valuables, whether they're wallets, purses, electronic devices, anywhere visible in your car, or really anywhere in your passenger compartment at all if you're going out somewhere. Be safe. So I wanted to mention that. Finally, a number of people have asked, particularly now that school is back in session and traffic on Elmwood has increased, about the Elmwood Avenue construction project. And so I just want to make sure people understand what that project is, whose project it is, and what it's going to be. First, it is a Monroe County DOT project. Elmwood Avenue is a county highway, so that's a project that Monroe County has undertaken. But I think it's a good project. It's a project that will involve establishing a left turn lane at Lockdeville Boulevard with a left turn signal. With all the traffic volume, there is a traffic signal at Lockdeville and Westfall, and what we've been seeing, particularly in the heavy early morning rush hour, people stop to make that left turn. People may not see them and stop at the last minute. People swerve out of their way, and there may be someone in the other lane. So this will establish a left turn lane. So for that reason, I think it's a good project. It will help safety and help traffic flow along Elmwood Avenue. But right now, it's not, of course, helping traffic flow because construction. The county anticipates construction to continue through late October at this point. So you may experience backups at certain times of the day. But it is a county project. There will be a limited but some new sidewalk construction as part of that project. It's going to leave a sidewalk gap still, and that sidewalk gap is something that's important. It is in our capital improvement plan to be addressed going forward, but funding is an issue in doing that, so we will look to various sources, including potentially the benefits of incentive zoning to get sidewalks completed along the north side of Elmwood Avenue. But again, in a nutshell, it's a county project, left turn lane and left turn signal, and the county anticipates it'll be done around the end of October. And that's all I have. Matters of the attorney to the town.
Nothing, thank you.
Matters of the town clerk.
Just a quick reminder, the first installment of school taxes is due Friday. And then the fulls, because the first is due as a Sunday, the due date for the fulls will be Monday, October 2nd. So it always rolls to the next business day.
So if you're going to pay in installments, you have to do that.
By
Make that
Friday.
first payment by Friday here at town.
Correct.
Otherwise, you will have to make
Otherwise,
the
you
full
do
payment.
not have the option of installments, that's correct. It can also be postmarked
It
on
can be
Friday.
postmarked, yeah.
If you're going to do that at that late point, I would recommend going to the post office and having them hand cancel it, because a lot of items in the mail these days are not receiving a postmark. So if I receive something lacking a postmark and it is late, unfortunately, we have no choice but to receive it as late.
Good. Matters of the town board.
I have one thing.
Sure.
This is a little different. Every quarterly, I receive an update from the high school I went to in Los Angeles. The Alumni Association puts out a book about what they can get from people, information and so forth. And the last one, before this one, they had an article saying people who have gone into public service. And everybody that they listed was a male attorney or judge. So I said, that's not acceptable. So I wrote a letter to them and I said, we do things differently in New York. And I started naming the people that were department heads in the town of Brighton. Well, I just got this one in the mail, and they put my picture in there, and and I graduated in '58. Now
You didn't have to tell us what year you graduated.
But why I'm saying that is that this starts out going to alumni from 1945 to present day. And each one of the graduating classes in '58, anyway, we had over 550 people. So this is going out to thousands of people. And they said, can I read it?
Absolutely.
It was born into the greatest generation. No, that was not me. That was the person before me. And au contraire pronounces Louise Frieden Novros, who could be living in Amazonia, but resides in fact in Brighton, a suburb of Rochester, New York, where according to Louise, the town assessor, director of finance, town justice, court administrator, director of personnel, coordinator of data processing, library director, director of recreation, and town historian are all female. Louise herself is an elected member of the town council. All this was in response to the article Hamilton graduates who went into public service, and which apparently gave her the impression that in California only male lawyers go into public service. She accompanied her letter with one of her campaign brochures. She's a Democrat, and then in parentheses, what else coming from California? And if she will pardon one's chauvinistic views, looks great. Louise has been married to Joel Novros for 54 years, and together they have 2 daughters. Louise, our apologies to you. Clearly, the distaff side is holding its own in Brighton. So now,
That's great.
all around the country, they know about Brighton.
Cheers to that. Great message. Great job.
That's cool.
Well, Louise, I'm sad to say that those that I will thank tonight from coming over from the University of Rochester were all male.
I know.
But I had just a delightful day 2 Mondays ago working with 10 freshman students from the U of R for Wilson Day. And it is tradition there at the U of R campus that the freshmen are sent off to help in the community wherever asked. And I put in a chit for some help here in the Rose Garden, and these young fellows came off the bus, and I shook their hands and laughed and said, "You have soft hands now." They worked hard. They were so frustrated they could not get that stump out. They were insistent they were going to get the stump of that tree out. I said, "Boys, that's going down probably 10 feet straight down into the ground." Yeah. But they did finally decide, well, maybe they'd go for that last garden, but they got all the interior cleaned out. But the 6th floor of the Genesee Hall supplied us these 10 students, and they ranged from Iowa, Pennsylvania, Egypt, 2 from China.
That's Egypt in Africa, not Egypt, New York.
2 from China, 1 from South Korea, another fellow from Colorado, and 1 fellow from Mauritius, which is island.
Mauritius.
Mauritius, is that how you say it? Thanks. Mauritius, and I was pleased that I kind of knew where it was. I just can't say it, but these young guys worked hard, and I think they didn't realize that what they were in for, just how long, and they looked exhausted at the end of the day, as was I.
So did you.
But yeah, but I got to go to the hot tub. But U of R and guys, thanks so much for your help.
I echo that. I got to meet them all, and you were helping to supervise them. Gary was helping to supervise them, and they seemed like, a terrific. We saw a great student here tonight, a student from Brighton High School, from the Climate Club. We saw these students, and it really working with those, listening to this student tonight, seeing those students, talking to them, seeing them work, it really does reinforce the view that there's an awful lot of very good, smart, hardworking students, young men and women out there in this community and beyond. It was great to see.
Fun to give an education on local government. I said, guys, if you're interested in local politics and local government, this is what's involved. And we all picked up pitchforks and shovels.
Thank you for really coordinating all that, Chris. Thank you for coming up with the idea to ask for the help.
Really good idea, yeah.
Any other matters of the board?
I'd like to just call attention to the event this past weekend that you opened.
Because I was.
And I closed it, the Field of Honor over at Mercy High School, which if you were over on Blossom Road this past weekend from Friday through Sunday, they had upwards of 240 American flags out honoring the memory of veterans who gave their life in service of their country or first responders. And Barry Colhane was there, fellow veteran, and this is their 3rd year of doing this. And it was really an honor to be a part of that. But next year, that same weekend, you really should take time to go over and see that. It's very, very impressive.
Yeah, thank you for being there and speaking at the closing statement. It was an honor to, again, be there this year. I was just able to be at the opening. Yeah. Dorothy Pecoraro, Brighton resident, is so integrally involved in making that event happen. Yeah. So Dorothy, I thank you for all that, but really all of the sisters, and it does also have a fundraising purpose for the Mercy Bridges project of the Sisters of Mercy, teaching literacy skills, English language and literacy skills to folks coming to this country. And that's a great cause, a cause that's probably more important than ever today. And in my remarks, I made reference to Pope Paul VI's encyclical in which he talked about welcoming the stranger. And the folks at Mercy Bridges are living that directive to welcome and to help people coming to this country, but learn language skills, be able to function as well as possible. And I've heard the Mercy Bridge participants at Mercy Bridge's events, and their gratefulness to the Mercy Bridges program and what it's meant for their lives, and in particular for their children's lives in many cases, is just wonderful.
I had a chance to talk to Sister Nancy Whitley, who is one of the co-founders of it, and she mentioned that in just these past 3 years, they have been tutoring people as part of this whole literacy program, upwards of 500 already.
It's great.
And it's really tremendous impact on these people.
The Rochester community, the Brighton
Yep.
community has been
Very giving
a
community.
giving community, but specifically it has, and I anticipate will continue to do everything it can to make this a home, a community that refugees and other immigrants to this country can continue to make a future for themselves and their families. Anything else? Then can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment of particular people?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll on that.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros? Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
I don't anticipate we'll be coming back out after that executive session, so I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. The next town board meeting will be September 27th, right here at 7 p.m. Have a great evening, everybody.